Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for today's panel discussion on innovation in real estate, sales and marketing, redesigning strategies for 2022. Pandemic brought in a tectonic shift in every industry, including real estate. It changed the way we perceived or did business. Real estate transactions have traditionally been time consuming. However, several new innovations in the last few years have helped advance every aspect of home buying. In the aftermath of pandemic especially, builders and other stakeholders have adopted and changed the way they used to do business. Two of the major processes that have seen significant changes are sales and marketing. How the projects are being marketed, how brands are being built, how consumers are being tapped. Almost every home buying process has seen several innovation. To discuss how the sales and marketing strategies have changed or will change further in future, we have with us today Mr. Sriram Iyer, President and CEO, TVS Emerald, Mr. Mallanna Sasalu, CEO, Provident Housing, Mr. Anupam Verma, President and CEO, Rustomjee, Urbania, Mr. Vikram Kotnis, Executive Chairman and MD, BeyondWalls. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
I will start with basic, and anyone can pitch in. One is before last 2 years, there was a complete different way how real estate builders used to do business and how they used to perceive the things and how they used to go forward with whether it is selling property or marketing the properties. Now that 2 years, because of the pandemic, whatever change which was there in a slow or gradual process has suddenly fast forwarded to a different level, and now builders are looking at different aspects of every processes, including selling and marketing. So what are the changes that you have seen in the last 2 years, and what are the things that you are now bringing in within your own businesses to help sell or market your properties? Mr. Mallanna, you can start.
Yeah, so thank you. So let's look at what we were doing 2 years back, or 2.5 years, 3 years back. We basically, built the marketing office, we built the sales office, we went and advertised. Of course, technology was always part of the marketing, and then we had the traditional mediums like the newspapers and the hoardings and so on and so forth. And the business was all going well, and people used to come, and we used to entertain them and get to show them our product, that whatever with love and affection that we had created that for them, and they would come and look at it, and there was a touch and feel and other things. And also usually the marketing and sales offices are in the location of the where the project is going to be coming up, so they built a connection towards that site or to the land, and that's how it happened. And then came the pandemic, and now we were all at home, and or maybe some of us could get to our offices. Now the challenge started about how do we actually reach out to customers, or the customer can reach out to us. So there were, I think, that is when I think the technology, took it to another level. Things that started happening in technology, it transformed to another level. We started having virtual expos. We started attending virtual expos, and similarly we did our own expos where our bunch of projects were bundled together, and people were reached out to so that they can participate in that. And as we go forward, that I'll talk a little bit more about when everybody participates, that we also did our Book My Home platform, in which virtually you can do like any other, like booking a hotel room, or buying a car, or buying a book. You could buy an apartment. To that extent, the technology has come forward. The question here is that is it the way that it's going to go, and in the very near future that we're going to abandon everything and go the technology way? Maybe that's the discussion point.
Just to jump in here, right? What we saw as two major trends is after pandemic, there was a lot of confusion on how to go about selling. So two trends that came out very strongly. One was obviously tech, and other was distribution, right? Everyone moved to distribution because they didn't want to spend, because they didn't want to know what was going to happen out of the spend. So everyone fell back on distribution as a medium. That was one major trend that came up. So earlier, brokers maybe did 30-40% of the sale. Today it's reached 75-80% of the sale, with most of the revenues. And as that trend became much bigger, it became more professional, and a lot of good sales people came in. So that was one big trend. The other trend was obviously technology. A lot of D2C companies came up. Portals changed their format, like Times and No Broker and all these. So there's a lot of data rush that is going on to change the home buying process. So how could you sell directly to the client? Portals are leading it. Real estate developers are trying to adopt it, but CP aggregation worked very well at that point. So most of them fell back on that. Technology takes a lot of patience and process implementation. So it's going to be a long drawn process, but it'll get there. So tech, data, online home buying, and channel partner aggregation were kind of the main trends that kicked in at that point.
Right, Mr. Iyer. Yeah.
A few trends that we actually observed. I actually operate in the mid segment, in the affordable or the mid segment. 3-4 trends which have already been spoken about. One is the virtual experience, and quickly, I mean, previously before pandemic, it was all the touch and feel. We used to send the cars to pick up the customers to our site, and everything changed overnight. The real challenge was as to how to train the people overnight to give that impactful presentation to the prospective buyers. So virtual experiences over a period of time we learned as we went along. Number two, the customers, we were actually able to convince the customers, but we had to also give them assurance that even if they like it, even if they give a booking amount, the amount was refundable without any deduction, should they not like the product. So that was the second assurance that we have to commit, and we have to come out very openly, loud and clear, and saying that your money is safe. Just block the inventory. Of course, there was it was not followed up by an empty number of calls saying that your payment is due, etc., etc. So in a way, we were actually building a base of intending buyers who have expressed intention to purchase with us. So the entire KPI shifted from driving walk-ins, driving conversion, to building a base of how many EOIs we have actually collected. The third was that we started collaborating with. We understood and we realized it very quickly that it's no fun, it doesn't make any commercial sense to advertise or go ATL. Rather collaborate with your n number of brokers, and some of the big brokers with whom we actually had enjoyed a depth of relationship, and we actually collaborated them. We gave them a telecallers, and we said, why don't we actually create some good prospective buyers from your database. And the fourth thing that I saw, that most of the people started relying on their own loyalty customer base. I mean, all said and done, most of the developers have been in the market for 10 years, 12 years, 30 years. They have a very good customer base, and they reached out to their own customer base requesting them that why don't you recommend people, and why don't you endorse our product. And that's a base that we started taking a fresh look at it. And of course, technology was actually used. The most of the money, or the marketing money, or the communication was directed at telling the people that it's safe to come to our site. It is completely COVID-free. Our customers or our RMs are vaccinated, etc., etc. So those kind of dynamics we have to deal with. But I think what post-COVID, what we continue to see is that the people are relying on the virtual expose and trying to make presentation and trying to create some prospective buyer from the database. So that's a good news, and the bad news that now the customers have started negotiating a lot, in the sense that they'll refer to the pre-COVID era, saying that even if you have actually booked, you need to return all the money. So that's what these are some of the key changes that I have actually observed. Yeah.
Mr. Iyer?
Yeah. So I think I would just like to take the thread from what Mallanna mentioned. Earlier we used to have physical site visits. Now largely we are seeing virtual site visits, right? Now what I have experienced in the last 1.5 years, or even 2 years, is it's never a question of whether it is physical or virtual. The way I see it is, virtual has actually been a big enabler in bringing down the sales cycle time, right? So earlier, I mean, at least in the south, people used to come, maybe have 1 visit, 2 visits, sometimes even 3 visits before they book, right? Now, what is happening is the virtual site visit is actually helping to prime up the customers before they come up for the actual physical visit, right? Site visit. So, real estate, I still believe, is a very much brick and mortar industry. The physical site visits are going to be there, whether we like it or not. But I think what has hugely changed is that the virtual site visit is actually being a big enabler, right? And that is why you see prop tech has become very, very big, right? Again, I think Vikram mentioned that, people have taken on to distribution. Yes, that's a very, very obvious route that most people have taken to contain their marketing costs. But another important trend that I'm seeing is even with the channel partners, I think most of the developers uh, have started engaging started engaging virtually, right? So there are now these channel partner apps that uh, various developers are actually, uh, rolling out, and we have rolled out one too. The whole idea is that channel partner being such an important chain in the entire sales and marketing process, how to give them more and more transparency, right? So a lot of companies, and including TVS, we have invested a lot on channel partner based apps, right? Um, so we've also one more. How do we predict the buying trend or the changing buying behavior of the customers, right? This is going to be a very important thing. Last 2 years, everybody is waiting and watching. What has COVID to the customer habits? Uh, and I've been part of several such discussions, and I think there have been several emerging trends, right? One emerging trend definitely is that people are now wanting a roof on their head, right? Uh, Before COVID, people were very happy renting out places, and perhaps the economic calculations as per them, was still better at least in the short term, if not in the long term, to rent out spaces. But today, I think uh, that need has changed, and people definitely want to own homes. I think that is definitely a trend that we are seeing. Second is they want slightly bigger places, I mean, bigger space, due to the work from home, habits that they have developed. But of course, the catch is they want the bigger space at the old price, right? That's a challenge that we are all facing. I'm sure some of my friends in this will also, uh, validate that. So that's a challenge that every developer is facing. So in all this quagmire, how do we uh, keep predicting the buying trends, right? And artificial intelligence is one important area that we are looking at, and I'm sure several others will also be doing, especially with respect to lead management, the probability of conversion, and priority of the leads, and how was the leads allocated to the sales team, so on and so forth, right? Several algorithms are being developed, and I think at the end of all this, maybe we may have to give a year or a two for even the artificial intelligence to go through the learning cycle. But at the end of all this, here, this entire sales and marketing cycle is going to be very different, right? We would have definite data on who's the customer, what is his profile, even before he comes to the site, what is the chances that he is going to buy the particular property, what kind of flat or apartment is he going to buy, what is his budget, I mean, those kind of accurate data is very, very imminent as I see it.
Okay, so traditionally, how builders used to market their properties was completely different. What used to happen 5, 6, 7 years ago, and people used to have advertisement on newspaper, or people used to have billboards and etc. And they used to, broker used to stand outside the project and carrying pamphlet. Now this has completely changed, and now this online methods, online marketing strategies are being used in association with channel partners. How difficult or easy has it been to train? So there are two aspects of it. How difficult has or easy has it been to train your own employees or own your business model, how to change your own business processes, etc. And second is the buyers, the home buyers or customers that you have. They also need to be trained or educated, etc. Regarding these processes, because see, when e-commerce came in, people were a little skeptical to adopt these e-commerce strategies or e-commerce processes. Now similar changes are being brought in real estate players. So do you think how has been this change for you, or how is the change going on in present scenario?
Uh, well, I mean, I would say that the average age of the people or the customer interfacing sales force is pretty young. They're below 30, and their ability to adopt any changes, new technology is very, very high. So to that extent, we did not actually face a issue of actually training the people, or the people. They are very open, conversant with the new technology. They have to be only guided, told what is to be done, and then you will find that those guys were on the job right from the day one or day two. So to that extent, I don't think so that we faced any problem, primarily because the kind of people that we are actually dealing with were pretty young. Second, as far as the process is concerned, look, I mean, we had to learn. We had to go through the process of learning. It was not that on the day one we thought of it everything. We realized it that with the virtual experience, with the proper lead management, with the sharp shooting, we were only trying to create a prospective base which is likely to convert faster and likely to give us a higher conversion. And we were just waiting for the pandemic to get over and then facilitate the visit to our site. So one thing which I have seen as is probably the selling cycle has actually been compressed because of the virtual experience and because of the dealing with the customer. But the physical site visit is much before they issue a check or they pay you any money. With regard to the customer, the experience has been varied. Like, I mean, there are customers who are very, very, especially the IT crowds. They were pretty comfortable with whatever we showed, whatever we engaged with, whatever data we actually. But there were people who were not very, comfortable. Our RMs taking them through the entire presentation on the handheld devices. Everybody will not have a laptop. So these are some of the challenges that we actually faced while discussing it with the customers. But beyond a point, you only convince them that we are good guys. We have got some excellent projects with the help of some pictures and some good marketing material. We actually prime them up and then inspire them or motivate them to visit our site once the pandemic is over. So for us, like, it was a mixed experience. Good from the employee perspective. Thank God they adopted the technology and they adopted all the changes. But with customers, like, it was varied.
I agree with Anupam. Basically, most of the people, the relationship managers, are much younger than me, at least. So their adoption of technology was very quick because of their brilliance. And there is always a problem with the structured thinking that they are supposed to follow. Before, what used to happen, we used to write a spiel and give it to them, and in the site, and they will take them from saying good morning or good afternoon and taking them inside and taking through the entire process. There was a script that was written and given to them, and they used to follow that script. So when we were doing the virtual thing, that is, the problem was to keep them to a structure in which the presentation goes on. So we created a tool called Presento, in which it made sure that they followed that way of presenting one after the other. And while the customer is asking a question, you still don't lose the track on that. So there was a little bit of that training that we had to do as we went forward. And also that we also did a couple of launches during that period, particularly one plotted development and also one very high-end residential development called Atmosphere, where people were able to participate in that launching. That is, the video was shot and some of the videos were shot, and even the price revealing happened online, so people could understand what is the product, and also understood that what is the price. And then they started picking up the phone and called the relationship manager, and then after that is relationship manager, and after that it is the business as usual, and they still want to come to the site and look at it. And so if you really look at what is technology enabler is about giving information. As Sriram said, yeah, why did this sales cycle actually shrink? Is because that we are able to push more and more information to the people, and people can grasp it and take it in. And also this artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is machine is learning. And because of this pandemic, there was so much usage of data that from everywhere, and that machines also today, if you look at something like a Google or something like that, is much more smarter. Maybe in 2 years, it got smarter by 20 years, right? And that is what has happened, and that is the advantage which everybody is taking, and the analytics and other things which we can draw from those things is immense. And I think the pandemic in that way has been good. In many ways, it is not good. So, but in technology leaping forward, and I think it happened.
I think the most difficult part on this virtual experience was actually discussing about the pricing. The customers are very keen. They said, okay, fine. Why don't you reveal the price? And as a good marketer, as a good boss, the people will say that the price is the last thing that you should be actually revealing it. So it was. I mean, for the younger lot, it is very clear that you need to really contain the excitement, because the first thing that they want to do is to reveal the price and say that our product is better because X, Y, Z. And then we have to actually train our guys to go slowly, explain the products, and then reveal the price. And many times you'll find that the customers will just barge in and say, okay, just let us know the price. So I think those are the things that one has to actually come to terms with while dealing with the customers virtually. But otherwise, I would say that thanks to the younger crowd, we adapted to the change pretty fast.
Okay, Vikram, I want to add one more point before you answer this question. Because you deal with builders and other stakeholders, how easy or how difficult has been? So, because how are builders keen to adopt to this kind of technologies? Are builders, I've seen builders in NCR, I've seen people in South. So there is a complete difference. So are builders that keen to adopt these kind of technologies? Are they ready to move their business from a particular way of doing business to a completely different aspect to it? And how does this impact their future lead generation, etc.? So do you think that it is easy for builders to adopt, the builders that you're dealing with, or other stakeholders?
Some very important trends came in. During COVID, we saw technology adoption was very high because people thought this is the only way to sell, right? And then they discovered distribution. And that was the easier route because everybody had done it before, and most of the people come from that background. So although primarily we have been building tech for real estate for the last 10 years, means we have built everything you can imagine, from ML engines to AI to how's your pre-sales talking to where is your customer sitting in your full funnel pipeline. And we put out reports saying, if you do this, these are the 10 customers which are more probable to book. So probability engine kicked in and all these things. But adoption is barely 20-25% from what I have seen. The gap is the management wants to adopt wholeheartedly. But technology market has been disrupted with so much VC money and everything coming in. That where the gaps come in is basically there is business side of things and there is tech side of things, right? So you need the right person to bridge the gap between business and tech. And that is where real estate industry has been struggling a lot. And they do multi-million-dollar projects, and it's not been very, the outcomes are only minimal, right? Means when you do that, and they lose the heart there. So big consulting and all this, I think what is needed is more tech people coming into real estate so that that gap gets filled. Because most of the tech teams that I've seen in real estate basically are promoted admins. and really not a programmer or a tech guy coming in to bridge the gap between, there are always exceptions. Means what I've seen with TVS or Puravankara, obviously they have invested a lot more. I am talking in general, and primarily that is where I have seen the gap, right? So I come from high tech background. I was with in Bay Area, Sun Max Systems. Our team comes from IBM Research, Amazon, and all these. So these kind of teams are not seen in real estate, primarily because the industry is not seen as very sexy for tech, right? And with the salaries shooting up crazy, means you've seen 150% raises in tech year on year in the last 3 years actually, and it's become very difficult to adopt. So then another trend that happened is after COVID, everybody went online. The digital cost went up 4 times, right? So actually, the cost of selling through a channel partner and digital, there was only maybe a 0.5 to 0.7% difference, and I didn't have to spend before I had to pay out, right? यानी बेचने के बाद पैसा देना है, and I spend and I take the risk of closing. So the answers become very obvious to all the management. Who's going to take up the headache of technology, bringing in the people? They'll leave in 6 months. I'm not getting the data that I want. So primarily, this has to be kind of a balanced approach. So vertical CRMs are very important because if you go and try to build something yourself, it's going to be very difficult because building something has become very, very expensive now. It was easier earlier. So adopting platforms which are already there for your industry and quickly working with good consultants, not very expensive, but who know the industry, right? Who have been in the industry is very, very critical. That gap is the most crucial gap that I see. The technology is there, but how much can you adopt, right? Means we run, so that's why we started some services where we say, okay, we'll put our skin in the game. We'll do the whole technology bit. Only if there is success, pay us and all these things, just so that technology adoption goes up. At the same time, we started kicking in aggregation platform for brokers, loyalty programs, and all these things. So we are working tech for both the fronts now. So how to make distribution easier and how to make tech adoption easier and how to bring in good people into tech, right? Train them on real estate, train them on technology. So you find a tech guy and train him on real estate. That's the most crucial part that's missing. And I think eventually we've seen a lot of push on the digital marketing side from where I had seen it 6 years back. Today, 70% of the budgets are on digital. So we'll see the same thing because collaboration and data is getting so easily available now that you cannot get away from it. Otherwise, the bigger portals will take away the sales marketing market and brands have to stand out there. Right? You cannot hand over everything to the big boys. And tomorrow maybe a 99 acres or a no broker might start dominating the market like Amazon does. So you never want that to happen. So adopting technology is going to be very, very crucial.
Mr. Iyer, you can counter, or Mr. Verma, you can counter it.
Yeah, no, I'm not countering it. I'm just saying that one shift that we have actually seen is the shifting or putting more money on the digital platforms and digital marketing, as what he rightly put. But at point, you have to actually tell yourself that how long do you want to actually test this particular digital marketing? Of course, it gives you efficiency, but when it comes to the cost of acquisition, and you compare it with the cost of acquisition through broker, you find that this is probably you're not dealing with the right digital marketing agency, or you're not putting the money at the right places, or you don't have the right requisite skill set. But just to take an example, suppose in a mid segment, a flat cost you 1 crore of rupees, and your cost per lead is about 1,000, and lead to walk-in is about 2%. It means that you spend about 50,000 rupees per walk-in, and you get 10% conversion. It is about 5% of your total cost of the flat. Now that's very expensive, and mind it here, as you rightly put it, that you have to spend upfront. I mean, and then keep your fingers crossed, and you think that probably the right kind of a customer will come, and all these numbers that I'm telling you, Vikram, these are.
I totally agree with you. So what happened? Interestingly, we used to own 70% of the digital marketing market, right? And the salaries in digital marketing started going up, but the industry was saying, no, we don't want to pay for digital. So we lost a lot of good talent in digital to other industries like D2C or FMCG or even finance industry, right? And then we also said that, okay, we don't want to be there. So we focused on technology a lot more. So today also we run an extremely good team on the digital side, but we had to flip saying, okay, at least pay us, let us close for you. So we'll run a hybrid model. You spend, we only get paid if we meet that 1% cost on closure, right? So these are the kind of models we are trying to run.
No, I mean, we'll be very happy in case of the cost acquisition through media tech company or to the prop tech company. If it is 1%, we'll be very happy to collaborate with them. But
we do so many projects at 1% closer, but it's a lot of hard work. And as I said, that gap between the guy who knows real estate and tech, right?
Yeah.
Sitting in between to bridge that gap and running a full funnel model. And we've done it for 10 years, 12 years. So we think it might be easy, but that skill set is not available out there. Yeah. And we've been building it for the last 10 years. Yeah. So 1% is possible. Another problem that has happened is the cost has gone up. See, finally, broker ka discovery bhi digital ke through hi hota hai.
So, but no, Vikram, I mean, I was having a very interesting conversation with one of our big broker. I said, boss, we are not able to manage our ratios, and how come you people are managed? And he came out with something very interesting. He said, I spend money to get a one lead, and I have chances of converting it through n number of projects. But you are spending money only to convert it in your project. So he said that my ROI works, and that is the reason that for a time to come, one, that broker gives that kind of a comfort level, and what we say is it pre-cooks the customer for to the advantage of any project. And second, I pay only post an event, and broker is very conveniently spending money on my behalf, and easy. I mean, such models are running concurrently and very successfully. Definitely. So what I'm saying is, at one level, yes, of course, we need to adopt technology for sharp shooting, so that all the and this is the place where I find that the interface between the technology and the real estate has to happen through a very, very effective digital agency.
Exactly. So I agree.
Mr. Iyer, Mr. Iyer, do you also agree with both Vikram or Mr. Verma is saying? Do you think that there is still a gap where the builders are little skeptical to adopt these kind of technologies when it comes to overall cost that you look at?
So I think very frankly, like I started my conversation saying that the way we are looking at it is technology is an enabler, right? Now, how fast you want to spend, how much time you want to take to bring in the spends, I think that's a decision which every developer has to take depending on the markets that he's dealing with. But I think let's say if you were to talk 3 years, 5 years from now, technology is given, right? If you're not into technology, I think you will be a loser in this real estate, is my submission here. On the lighter side, Vikram mentioned that there are consultants who are not so expensive and who would deliver. So Vikram, I'll get in touch with you to get a list of such consultants.
Sir, you are on our platform, so everything comes to you free.
So every day we are on lookout for consultants like that. So so the other point was digital, right? We are all talking about digital expenditure. Now, my experience in the last 2 years, and this is something I am actually grappling with on a daily basis, our actually cost per lead on digital medium has gone up. I don't know whether all my other panelists are also having a similar experience, but it has gone up tremendously, right? To an extent where at some times I'm actually capping my digital expense. Whereas my entire 2-3 decades of experience in real estate has told me that whether you spend in other medias or not, you have to first spend in digital, right? So this is a change that I am seeing, right? I think largely because of what Anup also mentioned, that perhaps you're not spending in the right areas, in the right places, in the right, I don't know, right? So the cost per lead is definitely gone down. Obviously the cost per conversion also has gone up a lot, right? So this is where I think, like Vikram, you mentioned, we are going in for distribution, right? That means was success-based sales, right? only when there is success we have to pay. So we are all happy with that. But that also comes with a catch, right? I don't know. The point is that when I keep talking to my channel partners, they say, if you don't spend on your digital, how will I, get my leads also?
So brand
So
has to be out there.
yeah, so it is a symbiotic relationship. I do understand, right? So we need to have that minimum spends before we get that, before the channel partner also gets uh, some some traction on his digital spend. So this is where it is. So do we spend more on digital? If you are going completely virtual, or if you spend huge amounts on virtual, I think the common sense would tell you that you need to go digital, keep your spends as low as possible. Obviously, go in for success-based fees, and that's what we've been following, right? But I think from a marketing spend point of view, I have seen a huge change in the approach that we are taking currently.
So, sir, the audience is limited. The main mistakes that I have seen happening is you're reaching out to the same customer 10 times, right? And it's basic economics, means there is a supply demand curve. Once you breach the peak of the curve, optimum value, the cost of reaching every additional person is going to be far more. And everybody has been so in tune to itna lead aayega to itna walk-in aayega to itna closure hoga. So,
no, but Vikram, how do you then scale up? The today's challenge is that if you have to scale up your operation from X to Y and the entire
yeah,
media, the
we have
entire
to go
that
after
is
different
digital,
channels.
then you have to scale it by 2x or 3x. And if this becomes a limiting factor, then
Right.
obviously you have to explore channels which is not technology or digital.
Yeah.
So sorry, just to come in, just to add to what Anupam mentioned, today marketing spends of 8-9% on top line is not unheard of, right? 3 years, 4 years back, we would laugh if somebody is spending 8-9%.
I agree.
Yeah.
See,
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, so see, like any other online business in real estate also, this whole aggregation model is working very well. That's the reason why a broker who builds the database and he has more to sell than an individual developer. So that is the reason that we go to the brokers, and the brokers take advantage of that. And you're right, Sriram, that when did we actually spend 8% of our top line on marketing, right? So thanks to pandemic, and we learned that how to spend money now. So there are, I think, in
Not getting returns, but
are getting returns. So there are two things here. One is the entire marketing. If I look at it in two parts, one is about the branding of the company or the brand building exercise that happens. The other one is the tactical side of it. That is, you want to generate the leads on a particular project, and then you want to sell your product. And I think digital is quite active in this tactical side of this thing. To scale up, to answer, to just respond to what Anupam was saying, how do we scale up 2x, 3x? I think there must be a lot of emphasis that we need to give as brands about building the brand, so that when we go for the selling of the apartment, then our efforts are much lesser. So I keep telling my people on the site, still, you do all of those things and spend 40,000 rupees or 42,000 rupees and get a customer there who are asking for a 10% conversion, and end of the month, when you look at the report, it's showing 5%, and then your heart is bleeding. And so I tell people that, look, this 10% itself is flawed. It should be 50%. Because we have spent that much money, we have given so much of information to the customer has taken that time and the effort to come and reach, which means he's a serious customer. What is the meaning of 10% conversion? It should be much more than that. So here, once the customer comes in, I think, it again comes back to marketing largely will be on the product. And I think, our emphasis on the product and the product presentation cannot be forgotten at all in this thing. Whatever we spend, whatever we do, we get the customer to the site, and customer comes back and says, this bedroom is smaller, I cannot sleep here, or any of the other comments, and he walks away. I tell my people that, your non-action or you not performing on site means a customer going in and coming out is 40,000 rupees of expenditure to the company. So you better be prepared for that. And I think so. What it says is that they say the physical presence and the physically what we do, which is to show the mock-up apartment or the models or whatever we do in the digital world, I think it is still important. Some of my younger colleagues call it as phygital, so which is so I found it kind of funny, but I think it's here to stay that way, I think.
So, sir, as you said correctly, tactically you have to use, especially Bangalore, right? There is no outdoor left also. And you have to use it as a brand cover. Creative is going to play a very important part. Influencer marketing and all these is going to get very important because you have to reach people as a brand, right? And leads is another part of it. So I think there is one brand cover that you have to give. A lot of emphasis needs to be played on the creative side there for the brand to reach out. And the other part is lead, for which you have to run a full funnel marketing model, and you can track your costs. And for that, tools are available. You just have to adopt them.
The challenge has been that each time, let us say that you do a brand building exercise and somebody will be asking, hey, where are the leads? Yeah, the leads that is not connected to the leads. Somebody was saying that, you gave a full page advertisement and it did not get any leads at all. I said that you will not get any leads because of that. People will come to know you're still there in the business, right? So that's the reason why you do
it's
that.
Like adopting a FMCG model, right? They go for retail distribution and you run in your ads to reach, right? So your product gets bought. So
look, I mean,
now it's mimicking that model kind of thing.
Vikram, this kind of a dichotomy in thinking, saying that either it is brand building or the lead generation, I think this idea has been primarily perpetrated by the digital agency only. They will go back and what is their pitch? Just imagine, what is their pitch? You are spending so many lakh rupees on the front ad, and what is it giving it to you? You give me that money, I will give you a lead. So I think the culprit somewhere lies. I mean, is there with the digital agency, because this is how they have marketed themselves. And then we are made to believe that probably they are right. I mean, why would you not put your money, which can be linked directly to the cost of acquisition, which is CPL or cost per conversion.
So as sir said, right, if you don't give brand cover, even the CPs won't sell for you because the customer is not asking for the product. So there are metrics to track that also. You have to measure your cost per reach and your cost per engagement. So you have to figure out what is the audience, how much do you want to drive, how much do you want to reach, and the cost is not much. Means compared to a newspaper ad or a hoarding, it's far less, and the reach is much higher and the engagement is much higher. Because if the product is not creatively taken out to the at the end of the time, real estate is buying a dream, right? You're buying your dream house. And if it doesn't buy into that, so Rustomjee, it's a little easier because the brand's out there. All the big brands is easier because brands are established. But for a guy who's coming in, who's a mid-segment developer, for him, he has no other choice but to take it.
I'll tell you, I don't remember one of the developer in Bombay, and they've just started a trend, which is like sending their team to the home presentation, for the home presentation. Now, just imagine a situation where we are talking about going virtual, going for a sharp shooting, just saying that, okay, from X to 4X, we'll be able to expose our product to the set of the people, and only the interested lot will come, and we'll have a higher conversion. To that extent, we are going to get the efficiency. But in the midst of everything, somebody has actually added an entire service element, saying that, okay, after 7 o'clock, when you're just about to have a dinner, just give us a half an hour time, and we'll present. Now, this is a very traditional and conventional way of actually doing a business. But at the end of the day, just imagine the kind of customer experience that you have. And then you go and make a presentation, and you have some good, smart guys who are very articulate and carries all the sales aid, and then presenting it before grandpa and grandmom who will not be able to come to the site. I mean, I would bet my money there. It may be more expensive, but I would say that it is definitely not scalable. It is not scalable, but it definitely will give you a very high efficiency.
So basically, it almost reminds me of everybody is going wholesale and somebody is going retail. And maybe it's possible where, you're selling, you're selling somewhere in Colaba or something like that, where 20 apartments are built. and each apartment selling at 25 crore rupees or something like that. Yes, I think that works. And some of us, where each development has 5,000 apartments, and how many people and how many houses can I send people to?
No, I just told you these are definitely for the premium segment. It definitely works.
Yeah,
but at least for the affordable in the mid segment, I just told you that it's definitely not a scalable model.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So I would like to just mention my experience here. Maybe it's quite contrary to what Anupam and Mallanna just mentioned. One thing is, I think what Anupam said, I still believe there is a lot of art in selling, right? All this technology, etc., is going to pump up the information that is available to the customer. The customer is going to get all the information, but ultimately the conversion will happen when, and that conversion involves some amount of art, right? So I still believe in that. So that is why you'll have conversion rates very different, between 5 salespeople who are there in the same project, right? Obviously, there are certain soft skills involved in making that conversion happen within a given time, right? So I still believe in that. And while I may be sounding very archaic, I think even today we are sending people to uh, people homes of the customers to give them a presentation. And these are not Anupam, unlike Bombay, these are like 6,000, 6,500 per square feet kind of homes. Your construction costs in Bombay would be higher than that. So, but we are still doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe the cost is higher. Maybe it requires a lot of effort, etc. But I think ultimately it's also a way of building the brand, is what I feel, because there is a service element attached to it. And if the customer is expecting it, yes, okay. And if it is going to, most importantly, if it is going to give us the conversion, why not? So we are still doing it. Maybe we are still archaic in our thinking, but I think South markets, at least in some pockets, are demanding it, and we are very much catering to it.
On the lighter note, if I send somebody out like that in Bangalore, he will not come back because of the roads we have. If he goes, he will come back, he'll show up next day.
No, but it's exactly because of the condition of the road that the customer is also not coming to your sales office.
That is also there.
So how do you deal with that situation?
It goes back to virtual selling, right? And
that's why Vikram says it is virtual selling.
Right. So
one thing again.
Okay, so one of the aspects that I want your views on is, have you seen the expansion of your horizon when it comes to customer acquisition? So what happened during pandemic was people moved to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities wherever they used to live. Then there were so traditionally what used to happen was people come to the project and they then see the project. If it come to NRIs or those people living outside India, they have to. It becomes very difficult for people to see these projects and that point of time builders had they were not very tax heavy, so these projects were not available to those foreigners. Now if you're moving to a new cities, tier 2, tier 3 cities, or if either people or buyers are coming to your own project, have you seen this kind of change when it comes to marketing through digital mediums or virtual tools or 3D tools? Have you seen this kind of change? Are you going to adopt to this so that you can market these projects? So if your project is in Bengaluru, would you want these kind of things so that you can target people from Chennai or Hyderabad or Mysore or any other place? Do you see this kind of change happening?
I can respond to that because we recently launched a large project in Cochin. Right, in Cochin is a tier 2 city, and basically, if you look at the buyer's profile, 50% of the people come from either Cochin, Ernakulam, Trivandrum, and places like that. And the 50% is from the GCC area. Right, so we face this problem. Right, so we use the digital platform to its best, whatever the way we could do. The walkthroughs or the virtually whatever you can show it to them and so on and so forth. But end of the day, even then, after all of those things, and 50% of the people to whom we sold in GCC, they did not close the deal till one of their relative in Cochin came to the site and went through everything and saw the real people and real people selling that and real people walking through the mock-up apartments and other things. They did not. Another 50% were probably brave, and maybe our brand is known brand, and probably that's the reason that 50% closure happened. So my reason for commenting this one is that whether whatever happens, and still people want to be coming into the site. As Sriram and Anupam said, that it is really an art which can be, if that art is not present in the site, then then there are all opportunities that you are going to lose the money you spent on the digital side. It has to be the product first and the art of selling next. On site will continue to dominate this thing. Whether we use the distribution model, whatever model, people have to come and people still have to look at the.
But does this also mean that more people were aware of your project in Kochi?
Yes.
So if you were using traditional method, limited people would have been aware of your projects. But if you are using this medium, that means conversion may be a different aspect, but that means that more people were aware of this project.
Absolutely right. That is the premise of the technology, is that is the information. Even if you look at the evolution from internet. Before, we used to go to a website, we used to get some information, then e-commerce came in, and then the smartphones came in, which means that the more and more information was available. What used to happen in the early 90s of the 2000, 90s, in 2001, 2002, we used to go to a website and look at the hotels and then call the people and book it. And today the artificial intelligence has grown so far, so this thing, and they already know who you are. And the moment you say you want to go Kodaikanal, and he says, Mallanna, you can only afford this one, here is the hotel that you can go and stay. Whatever research I do, it will still be better than my own research. So it's the technology will give you that kind of an opportunity now for the business houses to go forward and do the business.
Yes. I think we are entering an era of collaboration with technology, as you said correctly, with the developer, salesperson, with the broker, with the relatives, right, and with influencers. Means that's a global phenomena where everybody is collaborating. When it comes to a larger deal like real estate, collaboration gets very, very important. And as Mr. Sriram and Mallanna sir said, the sales guy is very important because it's finally a emotional buy, right? So how well a sales guy is adopting collaboration tools, how is reaching out people, how is he changing his sales tactics using different tools is going to define his efficiency on how fast he can move the sales. Lead management allows you to keep tab on your task, next meetings, ये document भेजना है. This is what the relative wants. This is what the customer wants. Can I get both of them on the same page and do a call? These are the documents to be sent out. So how efficiently you manage that whole thing and collaborate is going to be the main thing.
Vikram, what I think is, such kind of lead management had been there for years. Like, I mean, it was actually making their task more efficient. But what is going to take it to the next level is sharpshooting. So I decide before calling, I decide that person X is not likely to buy versus person Y, and I prioritize my work accordingly. Now, I think there's a long way to go or reach this stage. And I again feel that that the real fun and then the real conversion will actually happen at the site. And this adoption of technology is has to impact the conversion. Unless it actually impacts the conversion and the cost of acquisition or the cost of conversion, the technology adoption of the technology will always be debated in the boardroom, whether it was right or it was not right, and then how long, what time frame should we actually give it, and what are the KPIs and what are the parameter on which we should actually evaluate technology. But yes, technology is there to stay. We will be dependent on technology, but at the end of the day, all the means and mechanisms have to be brought in together so as to bring hordes of people to the site and the interested buyers. Today with 7 or 8% sustenance level conversion, it's a huge cost to manage the phone. I mean, everybody comes, you have to devote 1 hour for the presentation, tea, coffee, hospitality, call for a cab, AC, so many people to attend to so many people. I mean, the real ideal situation is that 100 people walk in, and 60 issues you are checked. I mean, and probably that should.
Most of the people see marketing automation adoption is very weak in real estate.
Yeah.
And sales just doesn't like to use tools, right, efficiently. So another reason why brokers sell better than real estate teams, what I've seen, because brokerage में दो ही चीज होता है, सस्ते में लीड लाना और ह्यूमन एफिशिएंसी इंक्रीज करना.
नहीं Vikram, वहाँ पे the whole issue is that once the broker gets a lead, he has a probability of converting that lead through 10 developers.
Sir, I've as an aggregator, we work with 3,000 brokers in Pune.
Yeah.
They only focus on 2 projects at a time. If they say that if I focus on more than 2 projects, वो मुझे customer घुमाता ही रहता है, right? So they don't go after too many projects because their conversion cost and human cost actually goes up.
Okay.
So they usually launch projects पे focus करते हैं, या 1 or 2 projects where their costs are high. So they are also flipping to a model where I just want to work on 1 or 2 projects. Otherwise, the customer is very undecisive, right? So they also say that conversion ratio low है तो चलेगा, लेना है तो लेने का, I move to my next customer. So how long do I keep taking the customer to 10 different projects, explaining and all these things? So most of them have flipped to launches, right? So every CP also waits for a launch. So what the developers have smartly done, एक ही project में हर tower launch होता है. So every time it feels like there is a new launch, right? With a new pricing and an offer going out in the market.
Right.
And that's where you are able to get to the market. Customer ko bhi lagta hai. So a fabulous example is Bliss, right? That one location in Bombay sells 300 crores every month with 2 towers in the same project, right? Every 2 months there is a new launch at the same location. Logo ko lagta hai naya launch aaya. So that's what's happening in the market right now. So the whole marketing and sentiment is driven towards that.
Okay.
So Mr. Iyer, I will ask this question in a different way. So let's say if you are moving into a completely new city, whichever tier 2, tier 3 city, not the metro city, how would you go about when it comes to marketing your own project or a builder as in own your company, and how will you go about if you want to acquire new customers? So because this will tell us how will you move into this, how will you use different kind of technologies, or how will you use different kind of business processes that you have. So if you're moving to a different city and you want to acquire new customers, or you want to market your own company or project, how will you go about it? And others can pitch in too.
Yeah, so I think if you're talking of especially about tier 3 cities and tier 2 cities, I think as a strategy, I would go with a plotted development first, right? To establish the track record. So what is important in a new city always is the developer has to have a track record, right? So while you may have a track record in which other cities that you develop, I think real estate is still a brick and mortar, and therefore in that particular region you need to have a certain amount of track record. So first is how to establish that, and that's where I think the brand building exercise becomes a little more important, and therefore there is always an entry cost into a new region, right? And that is why real estate also traditionally has been a localized business, right? There have been several brands which have been successfully gone pan-India. Right, Godrej is one of them, and I'm mentioning Godrej because I'm an ex-Godrejite. But traditionally it's a local business, right? Otherwise, every region you go, there is a cost of entry. So, what would you do when you're entering into a new region? Obviously, is you have to reach out to the people about your track record, about your governance, about your quality, about your product. About the list of happy customers that you have, and so on and so forth, right? And then obviously you would expect the customers to revert back, right? And it does take some time to establish, but if your entire pitch is fundamentally strong, I think you can gain market share, right? It's all about gaining market share. That does happen.
So Vikram, if in the same scenario, how does you pitch in? What kind of things that you bring in for builders to better their project and bring in customers?
I think third tier cities or second tier cities, regional language plays a big part. All your creatives have to go in a regional language. Celebrity or influencer plays a big part again to cut through fast. If you're a brand, you don't need to. If you're not, you need to do that. And actually, in second or third tier, the cost is very low because the competition on digital is very low, and people spend a lot more time on uh, online. And WhatsApp is also acquiring the right databases and using WhatsApp effectively with bots is also a great medium to do that. To do that, and just identifying the right segment and going after it digitally, building custom databases. And what I've seen the biggest traction is through digital language, and you pull some anchors, regional language, and some influencers from there.
Okay, so Anupam talked about
Just,
yeah, please.
See, we are now in the tier 2 cities, that we are in Coimbatore, we are in Cochin, and we are in Mangalore. So our experience has been that first thing is to take advantage of your presence, that in a larger city as a larger developer. In any go to any tier 2 or tier 3 city, it is not that the developers are already not there, not that somebody is not making an apartment there. People are always there. And people, there is a distinct advantage. As when a bigger brand from Bangalore or Mumbai goes to these tier 2 cities, suddenly they say, okay, here comes, obviously we go with a lot of pompous. We say we have so far developed 25 million square feet. We are in the business for 45 years and so on and so forth. So we say that. Apart from that, the most important thing is to really understand the local business, which means that the local channel partners are going to play the most important role there. And that means that when you're going to launch, then you need to have a great CP launch that needs to be done. Second thing is you will run campaigns only about your brand for 10 to 15 days, that to make people understand that who is Provident or Puravankara, that, my company, that we are this and we have done this much and now we are here. That's one of the third thing. And as I think Vikram mentioned, that it is the local language plays the most important thing, because there the information consumption is predominantly television, meaning to say when you do a CP launch or whatever that the actions that you make, those things gets covered by the local television and the local newspaper, which will be in the local language. So which means that the people become very important. That means we may have a vice president sitting in Bangalore, but he can do not much at Kochi. You need to have local staff, local flavor to the entire thing. So these are some of the things that what we have witnessed, and we've taken advantage of the situation that the track record of being in larger cities has helped us a little bit.
Okay. One thing Anupam mentioned, which was the brand building aspect, whether it is used of digital marketing or any other aspect of it. Brand building is one of the things that builders are now looking very keenly into. Now, one thing that comes is social media marketing. So what happens is people now tag everyone on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn that this has gone wrong, this project has this problem, this thing is wrong. As builders, how do you perceive this? Do you think that this, using websites, using every other aspect, do you think that this brings in more transparency, that you want more factual accuracy on your own websites, on our other details? And how do you deal with these feedback? So builders are now going with testimonials of buyers on their own websites or other places. How do you deal with these kind of things? How do you manage with social media? How do you manage these other marketing types? How do you build a brand? So if it takes just one issue to hit a brand. So if something happens on your project, if a crack happens or if water goes in, that will impact the whole project, but it also impacts the brand. So how do you overcome this? How do you make sure of this? Because this comes as part of marketing, and this is part of what brand building Anupam was talking about.
Look, social media is there to stay, and social media has to be handled very, very sensitively. I think the customers are very reasonable people. Everybody is not there to twist your arm. They need to see your intent of resolving their issues. So my experience is that if you have a project, you have a running project, you will encounter some issues. But as long as your people are there, available to the customers, and customers also see you putting in genuine effort in terms of resolution of that, I think nobody is going to resort to social media. Now, this, if somebody is going to the social media trying to bring some bad name to your brand, it is only because when once that person is completely frustrated and at fighting your own internal systems, or the people who is there, or somebody is not listening to their problems. At the end of the day, just imagine, I mean, we are there to give good service. Post sales service is where it comes from. So we have, for example, in Rustomjee, we have a complete team, which is a CRM team, which actually takes care of the customers post possessions. They get a call, they get to we get the constant feedback. There's a team which is servicing them. And in one of our meetings, our chairman said that the cost of servicing these customers post possession is zilch, but the kind of goodwill that it actually generates. I mean, you will have not many people going there and say, yeah, this is a developer which takes care of you even after handing over the keys. So my sense is that you have to go back to basic. Don't have to essentially worry about this social media. Ensure that your team, your systems, your people who are interfacing with the customer post possession are taking each and every complaint very seriously. I don't think so. You have to be essentially very worried about the complaints coming on the social media.
Yeah, I agree with Anupam fully that it is so far, before the social media, we were not listening to the customers very well as a collective group of people, that we were not listening, right? Even if we listened, then there was no intent to act. So now the listening and action has come in. So basically what we all do is that now we got some kind of a call center itself and a simple application that we have developed, that is post possession or during possession, right? During handing over process, that people can actually log into that one and start to put that what are their woes, what are their problems, what is that they are not liking, what is that they like. Then there is a team, there's a small team that is put together, which is stationed at the site because of the largeness of the projects that we have. They go through that, and there will always be 5%, 3% of the people who are unhappy people. You cannot, cater to every single, unhappiness, but we are there to listen, and also it gets audited by an audit team. That means when was it resolved, how much time did we take, what kind of, and what is the repetition of this kind of a same type of complaint that is coming in. And once that is come in, and I think we've got some raving reviews from people saying that thank you very much, and we are so good. And it's also another way around also is good. The positive this thing also will be placed. They solve my problems within 2-3 hours and so on and so forth. And the second thing is that there will be always a association form, and at a little bit of higher level engaging with the office bearers of that association and reminding them all the time that now I've handed it over to you. It's no more my property, it's your property. Berating your property means you are reducing the value of your property because it's your property. Now you should talk highly about your property, and that and that conveying that to them all the time will also help.
Yeah. So I also would like to generally add to what Anupam and Mallanna said. I completely agree. I think the customer has to be listened to. He has to be heard. And in TVS we have what is called as Emerald Assist. It's a platform where any customer can actually call or log in and post his complaint. And we have very stringent TAT norms, turnaround times for getting back on these and resolving some of the issues. It could be as mundane as somebody have not received a receipt for some payment, even though all these receipts are now automated, but maybe for some reason customer has not seen it. It could be as mundane as that to something like on a Sunday morning in one of our apartments, maybe there is no water available for whatever reason, so there is a range of complaints or pain points that the customer can have, right? And customer is very right in actually wanting to reach out and express his pain. And I think as a developer, we need to listen and see how we can resolve it within a reasonable time. I think most developers, the problem is they don't, or rather they are not geared up to resolve the problem within a reasonable time. And the moment the customer feels that it is getting dragged, I think that is where the frustration sets in, right? So if you are able to address it within a reasonable time, I think customers are very happy. So we talked about how do we bring our cost of marketing down, right? I think some of these actions actually refer to higher referrals, right? So referral is a very, very important medium. And, the only way to invest in referrals indirectly is keeping the customer happy, right? And we have seen that over a period of time, this does lead to higher and higher referrals. Also, the referral cost is very low, right? You also have another metrics in real estate and in other industries, what is called as the NPS, right? Net Promoter Score. So while the Net Promoter Score can vary from quarter to quarter, from minus to something positive, and I always have a tough time explaining my promoters why it is going even worse than the Sensex nowadays. But these are issues because there is a lot of emotional investment of the customer in the house, right? So any small pain point, actually, the customer does gets very flustered, and I think that is something developers have to understand, and they have to bring in empathy and resolve the problem. And I think a lot of the developers have started doing that, and most of the successful developers are successful because they have been able to address this issue in a very, very proactive manner.
So Vikram, do you think that, so please.
Yeah, Mr. Iyer, I completely agree. This is one category where there's so many moments of truth. And to say that the brand is only built by a handful of people in brand and marketing is absolutely wrong. It's every customer touch points. How do you actually delight the customer? So, for example, post-possession, how is his engagement with the engineer is? Right. I mean, what kind of control do you have? What kind of from the prospecting when you actually how does your telecallers talk to the customers? I mean, when the customer visits the sales site, how has been your experience? So you find that there are so many moments of truth. There are so many customer touch points, and therefore there's an army of people which goes in building a brand. It is no longer that you can build a brand or build a perception without being actually rooted in product. Like whatever you deliver, it has to be experience. Or second, in the service element. As somebody actually pointed out that now service in the entire marketing dimension or branding dimension is becoming more and more important. As you rightly said, that one of the way which is not yet explored is how do you give or enhance the service post possession, and which will actually generate a reference. Now tomorrow, if somebody says that, look, I have spent about 10 lakh or 50 lakh in servicing the customer post possession, but where are my leads? Probably will not be able to connect the dots. But at the end of the day, intuitively, and it actually goes in the long run to build a good brand, and it will actually generate higher walk-ins or a good customers. I think reference generation is critical. It is very, very good.
Agreed.
Yeah. So Vikram, you just wanted to add. So just wanted to ask you, how are builders? So yes, these builders are very big. But do you think in general that builders are adopting these kind of post-possession, looking at these kind of things so that they build their brand, they give these kind of services to these the home buyers, etc. And where do you come in? So do you provide this kind of services, and where these kind of builders how builders are adopting this kind of things?
So the large builders, all of them have good processes and tech to handle it. As soon as you come to one step below, it's all broken. It's all people dependent. So obviously the ball gets dropped there. But what we are doing is we are building a complete ecosystem right now, where you can plug in and say, I want this particular service. So I want a pre-sale service. So you not only get a tech platform, but you can pick and choose a pre-sales team. We can listen to their voice calls, their previous history of calling, how many walk-ins they were able to do. Is it for a premium project, non-premium project? Then similarly, post-possession CRM services, you can plug in and do that. Home loan services, you can plug in. So eventually, it'll all move to the platform where it brings in more efficiency and brings down the cost for the developer also. If I add service and add on cost to the developer, it's never going to get adopted. So what we are basically trying to do is, how can you use technology and create an ecosystem to bring in more efficiency bring down the cost, and primarily there is more transparency for the customer also, and a better service level. So that's what we are trying to do as a whole. So the whole idea is to bring down the cost of servicing, which is probably at a 1% right now to 0.5% within the next year. That's what we are targeting as a.
Okay, so last question. I know we are out of time, so very quickly and very briefly. So we see all of us have seen talked about big data, analytical tools, virtual and augmented reality, etc. All those things are there, existing. But when it comes to implementation, what I actually want to know is how much would you be willing next 2, 3, 4 years down the line? How much will you be willing to implement or invest in these kind of technologies when it comes to big data because of customer acquisition or anything? Or virtual tools, 3D tools, anything, all those things, how much are you willing to invest? How much do you think this will help you in growing your business, and what kind of things that you're looking at next 2 to 3 years? Just very quickly, all four of you.
As much as it demands, I don't think that we are going to be falling in short of investing in technology. And I think we are in the forefront of that as real estate developers. Of course, now, you're going to get your metaverse, this, that, and so on and so forth. And, as long as we can see the results that are going to be there, and we will be one of the early adopters of that. Just to give you an example, so we put something called neurovision. The neurovision actually takes a look at our video or an image that we would have done, and it looks at and gauges to an extent of what is the cognitive difficulty or the cognitive demand it takes to really capture what it is there, by creating a heat map from the eyes and say, okay, here, this is in the picture, that this is what it is. It is concentrating on, maybe it is not even looking at the brand, maybe the beautiful people you put there, and they took away 75% of this thing. And that, so we are in that forefront, and I don't think that we will fall short of that. And so we will be adopting as we go forward.
Yeah. So as I said, I think technology is the way forward, and investment has to happen. It is imperative that every developer puts in the investment. If you really don't put in the investment, I think you are going to be out of the race.
Yes, but would you be adopting it when it comes to selling and marketing your projects, actual implementation?
Yeah, of course, definitely.
Right, Mr. Verma.
I think we are left. I mean, today we are at a stage where we are left with no other alternative but to adopt technology. Technology can cause disruption, and you have to be in sync with technology. So, like any other big developer, we have to go with technology, and intrinsic to adoption of technology is that you have to actually train a set of people who can actually adopt technology as the way of life, as a way to delight the customers. And I'm sure the efficiency will flow in automatically. So we'll be early adopters of technology.
Okay, Vikram, whatever facilities that you provide, do you think that it actually helps in selling or marketing projects when it comes to builders? What are the things that that you are looking forward, that you are planning forward in going forward for builders, that can help in strategizing whatever they want to promote for?
So we are entering actually a very exciting phase of PropTech. So much data is available today, right? So fundamentally, home buying is going to change for the next 2 years, because the customer knows what is the price that an apartment is selling at. The IGR data is digitized. He also knows from internet pros and cons of every project, because there is so much chatter going on and all these things. So what we are doing really is providing all the tools, right from market research, where we are scraping RERA data and IGR data. So primarily we are entering a very exciting stage where data is so readily available today, and the home buyers have more and more access to data today, right from your IGR. So what price is the home sold at, to what are the pros and cons of every locality, what is the livability index. So even if you are a brand and you go and launch at a bad location, there's not going to be uptake. So first is the market research part. So we're doing a lot to kind of give you market research insights, RERA scraping, inventory scraping from portals and all these things. That's one part. Secondly, how do you reach out to a customer through main channels? One is digital, so we have built tools to do it efficiently. We are also doing broker aggregation platform, which is one of the largest broker aggregation platform across India. We started in Pune successfully. We are live in Bangalore and Bombay. So helping developers to augment their teams. Like I said, in the ecosystem, you can say and come that I have a launch, and we have already 50 people feet on street. We have released our app. There are 3,000 brokers aggregated. You reach out immediately. You want to have a webinar. You want to disseminate your information. That happens fast on the digital full funnel marketing and how to control your cost of lead generation. So a lot of tech available there integrated with reporting. When it comes to pre-sales, we are plugging in AI tools to monitor pre-sales quality. Are they following the pitch? Is the customer engaged? What is the time to talk? We are bringing in profiles from LinkedIn and all these upfront so they know who they are talking to. So that is called lead augmentation. We are also building integration with banks. So once the customer is in, you can actually get a pre-approval from a bank. So you really know how fast you want to, or how much effort do you want to put after the customer as a whole. Means obviously people have a lot of money of their own, but it gives you a barometer and you can score the customer quite well there. From there, the whole tracking the whole consumer journey through the sales, from the pitches to customer experience, which everybody has been working on the site, to digital presenters, bringing in that analytics onto how efficient is your salesperson. To post sales, we are also building ERPs now, which will be releasing in 1.5 to 2 years. We already have a BOQ tool we have partnered with. So we want to cover the whole tech of real estate. So we want to be a one-stop shop for all the developers with the best tech team and best team innovating every day to give whatever tech solutions required.
Right. I think time is up. So it was a very engaging discussion, and thank you everyone. Thank you for sharing your views and joining us today.